Hey everybody, welcome back to the Turnout. I'm your host, Aloy. Don't forget to check out usaaudiences.com for special event and movie screening invites. I can say that so fast now. And I just got done watching Umbrella Academy Season 2. I watched Season 1 a while ago and rewatched it right before the second season came out. And I was so excited about where they were going to go with this. This is one of those shows and kind of concepts that I didn't actually know about before the show. So the show came out and blew me away. I didn't know any of these characters prior. I had never read the comics. And actually going into the second season, I still have only kind of cursory information on the characters themselves and what happens in the comics. I did kind of do a little bit of like Googling and I've read a couple of the issues, but nothing too deep. I think for me, I was just waiting to see what was going to happen more to the characters in the show because I already knew from what I had seen already was that they've already diverged a bit and changed some things. So I kind of wanted to know what was going to happen with this version of the Umbrella Academy. And then once the show's over, you know, hopefully it'll get more seasons. It better. But then after it's all over, I'll go back and I'll read the original story. So honestly, it just gives me more stuff to enjoy, which I like. And there's going to be probably a little bit of spoilers in this video. I'm going to try and not spoil everything, but I'm going to be talking about each of the characters and kind of their story progression and what ends up happening with them as characters. And like how much growth and whatnot. So if you're into stuff like this, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification so you always know when the Turnout releases a new video. And let's get into it. So obviously season 1 ended, I'm assuming you've watched season 1, and it ended with the siblings leading up to the end of the world, essentially. They caused the apocalypse. So number 5 jumps them back in time, but he messes up the calculations. They end up getting split up, and each of them arrives a little bit after the next one. And 5 actually turns up last. And when he shows up, there's another nuclear holocaust that has happened. It's World War III. The Russians have invaded the US, and his siblings are there just trashing Russians. And this was probably the best opening scene of any show that I have ever seen. And I have seen a lot of shows and I love a lot of them, but the opening for season 2 of Umbrella Academy, it blew me away. Not only was every character just highlighted so well, every one of them in their own like mode, and they were all like souped up. They had all like learned how to manipulate their abilities more and more, and it was just amazing. Like I loved it, and I remember turning to my wife when it was done, and I was just like, I don't know how they're going to top that. What's going to happen? I was speechless. Like, it's crazy. And if you guys have been watching, I like to talk. So making me speechless, that's hard. So then it's up to 5 to go back 10 days in time, assemble his siblings, and get them to stop the end of the world. And again, I'm not going to tell a whole lot about the plot overall. There's a lot of twists and turns that I want to make sure stay cemented in your viewing. But what I want to talk about is story progression for each of the characters, because I feel like that's what I'm there for. I want to see these characters learn and grow and become new beings, right? So let's start off with Luthor. One of the big things that I loved about Luthor in the second season was his was very much a redemption arc, because he feels in the second season that he made a lot of wrong choices and that he kept trying to be the hero, but he kept messing it up. So season 2 begins and he's essentially kind of the villain. He's like, I don't really care. The world can end. Who cares? I'm not a hero. But he eventually does make his way back to believing in himself again and believing that doing the right thing and being a hero is the right thing. Even the last part of the last season where he tries to make a phone call to somebody to save their life, and I'm not going to say who, I thought that was phenomenal. I was like, because he didn't have to do that, but I think that that really was a big step, and it showed a lot about his character growth over the season as a whole. Now, let's jump to Vanya, who was the one that Luthor felt like he kind of hurt and he harmed with his trying to be a hero, trying to protect everybody, but at the cost of Vanya. Vanya gets amnesia, which is the best thing for the world. And she ends up with Missy and Harlan, which is a woman she's into, and her son, and of course, Sissy's husband. So they end up kind of living together. And that was kind of a weird scenario for me because I was just like, what, in what world, like, did they adopt her? Like, in what world do you have amnesia? So, like, now you're their live in babysitter? Like, that, I don't know, it was weird. That was a weird choice for me. But, whatever works for, I mean, to each their own, as long as you're not hurting anybody. But Vanya doesn't have her memories, so she doesn't remember the devastation that she's done. She doesn't remember any of her siblings, so she doesn't even remember she has powers, so they don't even manifest until she gets tapped by her siblings to come and try and save the world, and she's like, she starts remembering things. And of course, you find out that her remembering things kind of maybe starts to trigger the end of the world again, but I'm gonna leave that one there. But that's Vanya for you. But I really dug her character because she did actually learn to come to grips with her childhood and the way that she was ostracized from the rest of the Umbrella Academy. And she actually does learn to control her powers a bit, which I really dug. I liked that a lot. Klaus is a little bit of a different bag. He doesn't necessarily have a whole lot of growth. I think it's the nature of the character himself. He starts a cult because of course he did, because he knows the future, but he just ends up like quoting like pop songs from like later years. I busted out laughing when he was just like, one of the people were groveling at his feet and he was just like, but don't go chasing waterfalls. Just stick to the rivers and lakes that you're used to. And I thought it was hilarious, but that's just me. But Klaus was interesting. There was a little bit of growth when it came to him and Ben, because Ben, has been kind of following him around as a ghost. He has a little bit more agency now because Klaus has learned to do something there with his powers. I consider kind of Ben and Klaus to be kind of two characters in one. But Klaus wants to save Dave from dying in the war. And that's an interesting scenario. Dave was the man that he loved from the first season. Ben learns that he can also possess Klaus, and lots of hilarity ensues in there. Overall, I really like the storyline with Ben and Klaus. I didn't feel like there was a whole lot of growth there. Maybe for Ben. For Ben, there was a whole lot. For Klaus, not so much, but again, I think that's the nature of the character. I don't think that he's going to... Maybe he'll have more growth next season. We'll see. Diego is interesting because he's kind of the opposite of Luthor. Whereas Luthor was kind of like the Superman character, and he kind of turned dark at the beginning of the second season. Diego was kind of like the Batman character, but in the beginning of the second season, he's got this like extreme hero complex where he really, really wants to save Kennedy from being assassinated. He tries it many, many times, and that is his driving goal. He ends up in an insane asylum, and he meets somebody in there who becomes a key character in most of the season, Lila. So there's a lot of stuff happening with Diego. I actually kind of feel like Diego was one of the stars of this season. But yeah, so I dig Diego's storyline a lot. I feel like he learned to kind of come to grips with his relationship with his dad, with his relationship with his mom, with his relationship with being a hero. He has always been that kind of, I need to be the good guy because that's what I've been told. And it turns out that really he could just be a normal guy if he wanted to. Like, he doesn't have to do all of these things. Also, he has really long hair. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I guess it is what it is. Allison is a weird one for me. Being, a black woman, getting shot back into the 60s, she actually becomes a member of kind of the civil rights movement, which I dug that storyline for her. And I loved Ray. I loved her husband in the show. I think that there were a lot of really good touching moments between the two of them. At the same time, I don't feel like she had a lot of growth. I feel like this was kind of her second kind of do-over, because we know that she was married in season 1, but she kind of messed it all up by doing too many rumors. But this time she's like, well, I'm not going to do any rumors. And she was able to live kind of a happy life. And it was great, again, until the siblings came back and were like, hey, we need to go save the world. But she was able to kind of just become a regular person. She found out that obviously using the rumors means she's just going to use it more and more and more, and she gets addicted to it and all of that stuff. But the rumors do end up saving their lives at the same time. So she can't turn away that side of herself. I didn't really feel much growth from her, but I love the actress. She's a great character. Like, her power's great. She's great. I like looking at her on the screen. But it kind of like Klaus, she didn't have a whole lot of growth over the season. Which brings us to 5. And 5 was interesting. 5 is pretty much 5. Uh, he's pretty much just himself. He doesn't have a whole lot of growth until probably the very end, where he kind of learns the lesson that he's always about these big giant gestures, and like he really needs to kind of scale down what he is trying to do. I feel like that part right there he definitely learned. But you know, all our favorite teleporter, I loved him. I thought that the actor who played him did a really good job, like not necessarily looking like he had aged that much, even though like the actual actor is only 16, which means that when season 1 was done, he was like 14 or something. So like he's definitely older. I think that they like hemmed his clothes so that they would be proportionally kind of the same, but he was taller. But then I noticed that he would like stand like this a lot. So like he wouldn't seem like he was as tall as he is. I don't know what they're gonna do next season, because he's just gonna keep aging. That's why they cast, you know, a lot of people like to make fun of like high school dramas and stuff like that. Like, why are you casting 22-year-olds? It's because they're not gonna have a growth spurt. They can continue to just be teens for a bit. But this is what happens when you do that. The same thing happened with the Runaways. Molly was supposed to be like this really, really young girl, but you know, production takes time. So by the time you get to the later seasons, she's aged 4 or 5 years when she really should have only aged about 2, and now she's not little anymore. I mean, that's just how that works. That's neither here nor there. Let me move on. There are so many twists and turns in the second season. There are so many great characters. Some of them we lose, some of them are saved. There's a lot of different like moving elements in this show. With so many, it's an ensemble cast, so you end up with that automatically. There's a lot of moving parts, so many different storylines, so many different reactions, so many things that need to be addressed. And you know, with 10 episodes, I feel like they really did an amazing job with the second season. And if they don't get a third season, I'm going to be really mad, and I'm going to write Netflix and start a petition or something if that works. So anyway, I loved season 2 of The Umbrella Academy. Let me know what you guys thought about it down in the comments. If you've never watched the show before, you need to. But if you have, let's continue the discussion. I want to know who your favorite character is. Who do you think had more growth? And did I miss possibly Klaus and Allison's growth in the show? Let me know about all that stuff down in the comments. Otherwise, again, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, hit the bell. And I've been your host, Aloy. This has been The Turnout. Thanks for showing up.